This episode is about minutes 36 through 40 of The Empire Strikes Back, which takes us into the Asteroid Field with guest Dennis Hamm. Hello there, and welcome to Star Wars Music Minute, where we celebrate the music and sound of Star Wars 5 cinematic minutes at a time. I'm Chrysanthi Tan, or you can call me Xanthi, and today is all about minutes 36 through 40 of The Empire Strikes Back. We are going from one set piece to another. I can hardly believe that the Battle of Hoth and the Asteroid Field are in such close succession, but here we are. In this excerpt of the film, of course, our main heroes get the hell off of Hoth because Vader has come after them, and that's never good news. Luke sets his course for Dagobah, while Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO escape on the Falcon, only to wind up in an asteroid field with a damaged hyperdrive. I am thrilled to have on the show today jazz pianist Dennis Hamm, and he's going to help us navigate this incredible span of musical minutes. Dennis is an absurd musician. You may have heard him on tour with Thundercat or Flying Lotus, and he's also doing fascinating and quite nuanced research about the relationship between harmony and emotions, so our conversation will definitely be informed by all of that today. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
This is a very momentous set of minutes. I think everyone's been looking forward to this part of the film. So, no pressure.
This is the moment, huh? Yeah. It came out in 1980, right?
Yeah.
And it was the first film I ever saw in theaters when I was 4 years old was Bambi. The second film I saw in theaters was The Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
So at four years old.
You don't remember that, do you?
No, but I do remember that the record, the LP that my parents bought after that of the I forget which Philharmonic played the soundtrack, and we would just listen to it at the house. So
nice.
Very formative years. I was being influenced by John Williams. And Empire Strikes Back specifically. Yeah.
That's incredible. As someone who was not a soundtrack listener as a kid, it probably didn't imprint on me in the same way at that early of an age. But you and I actually have quite, I don't want to say like totally different musical backgrounds, but pretty different musical backgrounds, since you are, you're in the jazz world and I'm definitely not. And a lot of John Williams's harmony is so complex that it does a disservice to it to just kind of always reduce it to, I don't know, just the very basic types of chord structures that like classical students tend to fixate on.
Yeah. Although a lot of jazz music, and what I'm finding in doing research for this project I'm working on is that a lot of jazz musicians could really benefit from going back and learning why they perceive things the way they do, and where their jazz heroes picked up the harmony that they're using from classical domain. So,
interesting.
I think you may have a lot more to teach me today.
I guess the answer is always to not be firmly just in your own lane. I guess the answer is always to integrate, to cross-train, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't we warm up with just listening to the beginning of these minutes? So this is what we're dealing with.
Sir, might I suggest that you... It can wait.
Han and Leia.
This bucket of bolts is never going to get us past that blockade.
Steve's got a few surprises left in her, sweetheart. Come on! Switch over. Let's hope we don't have a burnout. See?
Someday you're going to be wrong, and I just...
Already, I feel like it's only been 30 seconds, but we've gone from Han and Leia to Imperial March to Han and Leia.
It just follows whatever you're looking at, right? They show a Star Destroyer, and they play one theme for 2 seconds. And then we're back to the heroes.
Yeah, and here in the original screenplay, which you can look up online, it says stormtroopers hurriedly set up a large bazooka-like weapon. Behind them, the giant hangar doors open slowly. So yeah, we see the bazooka-like weapon, and of course hear the Imperial March. And Han and Leia's theme is really like, this is the film that introduced that theme, and it's getting quite a lot of play like already in this film.
I wasn't paying attention. When was it first introduced? What minutes?
Oh, that's a good question. I should have off the top of my head.
It's been a while though, right? We're in 30 minutes in.
It was introduced definitely in the first 10 minutes, I'd say. Okay. Yeah. And this whole film has so much tension between Han and Leia. It really, Luke's not even here anymore. Luke's not with them. They go through this whole adventure without him, this whole asteroid field thing.
Looking at that theme resource.
You're looking. Yes,
So
Dennis
it's the. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, it sounds much better when you play the piano examples than when I do. Yeah.
There's a couple extra colorful notes in there.
Yeah, I heard them. Do you have any particular associations with Han and Leia's theme? It's not a trick question. It's just a lot of people get the various Leia themes mixed up, and I think it's easy to understand why.
So maybe we should touch on the other themes that you're talking about mixing up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, you have Frank Lehman's catalog in front of you. So why don't you?
Let me pull it up here. Okay. Okay. So Han and Leia, which I just played. So, and then the other ones you're talking about
is Leia's theme.
Leia's theme. Mm-hmm. And that's.
It also starts with a major sixth.
Okay. Right. Oh, major 7. Oh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's It's the same chord progression in inversion.
Basically.
Right? It's just a different melody over the same chords.
Basically.
Well, and until a little later in the.
Correct.
Because then it goes. Okay. Okay.
Yep. Making Dennis just sight read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little more minor. It's a little darker.
Like it goes to different places, but they start in pretty similar ways. And so,
Yes.
we have talked about this on the show a few times, but it does come up like if you think about like Indiana Jones, Marion's theme, and John Williams originally wrote Leia's theme thinking that Leia was going to be like the love interest for Luke. And so it's written sort of like a love theme. And now that there's an actual love theme, it's like, oh, okay, guess we'll do that again.
So you think it was an audible? It was a flip the script type of adjustment or addition.
Something like that. I feel like they're both kind of romantic. They both kind of So anyway, we have this Leia theme, and this is the tail end of the previous cue, which is still in the asteroid field. The cue that we're actually finishing is the Rebels escape again. And on the soundtrack, this can be found in the Battle of Hoth medley toward the end, because of course, like we do see shots of them leaving Hoth. Well, the Millennium Falcon is, they're in the Falcon leaving Hoth, and then we see Luke getting into his X-Wing and saying goodbye and flying off with R2 who just whistles at him.
Right.
So let's see. Should we continue, or do you want to linger on those minutes at all? On those seconds?
Just a little bit about the harmony of those both of those themes, and with Leia involved is touches on the Lydian mode, which is the sharp 4, not from the tonic. So if we're that's the flat 6 chord. So if we're going from E major to C major, then the melody is at F sharp. So that's the Lydian sound. And that, to me, from a very early age, and I think a lot of people experience that as kind of mysterious and ethereal. And,
I'm curious, where are you starting in the Lydian? When I think of the Lydian mode,
C.
okay. Right?
It's actually, yeah, sure. Yeah. So we've moved from E major, borrowing from E minor, natural minor, which is C C Lydian. So E Aeolian is C Lydian.
And Aeolian is like natural minor.
Natural minor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Flat 3, flat 6, flat 7.
Oh my gosh, your jazz brain where it moves very fast for me.
I think in chords. I had to play a gig with Gino Vanelli a couple days ago, and he wrote this classical piece arrangement on the piano, and I spent 5 hours writing chord symbols over every measure, every beat of every measure, so that I could process it. I'm slower at sight reading in that regard, but once I'm done thinking about it in terms of chord symbols and scales that go with them, then I can improvise over the piece. I just can't sit down, and I'm amazed at all of you who can just go directly from like eye to fingers. It's crazy.
Whoa.
I don't have that skill, so I'm resorting to this other laborious method. But it makes me think in harmony, though. I mean, that's why I do it, because I do think in
in harmony.
Naming, yeah, I'm naming chord symbols and what the relationships are to the key and all that. I'm like doing form and analysis 101 class from college every day.
Yeah, doing it so quick. That's wild to me as someone who does not do that. I'm very like note by like here's an embarrassing story that I tell sometimes. Well, I don't think I told it on the podcast, but here we go. Which was like I have a pretty good ear. And so when I did my like ear training entrance exams, we had to do dictation, write down the things that they were playing at the piano, and there was like a chord section, and so like I wrote the notes that were being played, but I didn't know how to name the chord. Like I didn't know jazz chords at the time, so I was just like, I don't know. I have no idea how I spelled them at all. And then after the test was over, I got called into like, the person's office, and they were like, "You got the notes right, but what do you think these are? Like, why did you write it like that?" Like, so like I'm on like a note person, and don't always have an idea of the harmony. Like I think of, I'm a violinist, so I think of the melody and the phrase of the direction of like, and sometimes it's actually hard for me to stop in a place and think like, what is the harmony at this moment? Because for me, it's all like, I don't know how much to include. I don't know. Things are always moving forward for me. So like, it's hard for me to stop and think of harmony.
That's really interesting. Like in a linear fashion, like.
Yeah.
Or melodic focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm always going, okay, what does this note mean? What's its function compared to everything else that's happening? Constantly. Yeah. So
okay, sorry, I derailed you.
But no, but that's a great I'm sorry, I'm just tying it back into the...
You were saying the Lydian thing, and I was tripping up because when I think of Lydian in Star Wars, I think of Yoda's theme, or like things that are more magical sounding, like.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And so, yeah.
Of course. Yeah, that's the right key too. Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So it's magical. It's also, I guess it's. I was just thinking of the Simpsons theme. That's like a.
Oh yeah, that's very Lydian.
Yeah.
Totally.
But that's more playful. Like it's too magical or ethereal. But yeah, so the combination of that Lydian sound, which we were just describing, but also the chord progression of borrowing, it kind of gives the feeling of modal modulation, going from E major to E minor, like I was saying, because C Lydian is the same notes as E minor, which feels dark.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going back and forth between those.
Yeah, can you explain
those two feelings?
Can you explain modal modulation in case people are not sure?
Yeah, there's a bunch of ways to describe
this.
Like mixed modal. So I just mean even though the pieces in E major were like borrowing from E minor.
Yeah.
Like we're modulating to the feeling of E minor.
Yeah, and the mode shift is from the E major, which I can't remember what mode major is called. I don't know. Or whatever it maps to the minor, versus something that is modulating in like a is a more functional harmony way, like a I don't know.
Well, basically if you play all the chords in diatonic scale, E major, if you go to a C, you'd play a C sharp minor.
Yes.
That's an E major, right?
Yeah.
But so by playing a C major, we're borrowing from E minor because it's one of the chords that fits in the E minor scale. I guess that's why sense. I think just changing one note. Even if we just have E and B and we add a C, suddenly we're in minor world. But also it's I don't know if now's a good time to bring in some of the research because David Huron is a musicologist and researcher about emotions in music. He's doing a bunch of papers. Now he's working on stuff about sadness and why we listen to sad music when we're feeling sad and it makes us feel happy paradoxically. But he has this thing called the Acoustic Ethological Model, which talks about similarities between animals and humans in how lower and higher sounds are mapped to emotions, and lower pitches, higher pitches, and then also louder music or louder sounds versus quieter sounds. And there's like these 4 quadrants of loud, quiet, loud, soft. Sorry.
Is he finding
high, loud, low, and then quiet, high, and quiet, low.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
Anyway, so here's so when we move from E major to C major, it kind of feels like our brain is comparing that E pitch to the C pitch, which is lower. And so there's a depressing sound to that. But then at the same time, Lydian to me feels like elevated, feels like a raised. I don't know about you, but I hear that sharp 4 as raised above a 3, like it wants to resolve to the major third.
I hear
rather
that too.
than hearing it wanting to go up. And I have a theory about that. I think it's because since we were 1 year old, we started hearing Happy Birthday on a very momentous occasion, the song. And And I think that starts forming our melodic perceptions of sharp 4 and Lydian, which is on the 4. It's the mode that happens on the 4 chord.
That's quite a claim, or that's quite a hypothesis, but you're also not
Right.
wrong that is a formative. Yeah, but also I will say that like that is used in a lot of music as well. So it could be
Totally.
like a lot of
Yeah.
film music and a lot of
Oh, yeah.
for that effect. So yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lydian, so the sharp 4,
Yes.
function of the sharp 4 in Lydian feels raised, feels lifted, and yet the harmony chord progression feels like a darkening or lowering. So we have these mixed emotions happening at the same time, which gives us the rich complexity of emotions when we're listening to harmony. And that's kind of what the project I'm working on is focused on. And so anyway, if that's my connection to Lydian, before I understood what it was, I think that it kind of explains why I feel so emotionally moved by Lydian stuff, because of the compound emotions you feel.
So do you feel that in Han and Leia's theme, combined with the sort of depressing element, like you mentioned, how the note goes down?
Yeah, so Han and Leia's theme, it's on the first page here.
Yeah.
Gotta
Well, we
get
can
past-
all-
Okay, here it is. No, I got it here. It's it's the same thing. That moves from G major to E flat major with the Lydian sharp 4 in the melody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exactly the same emotion.
I wonder if that kind of like Han and Leia's theme has always sounded more almost melancholy to me than, I don't know.
Yeah, and I have an explanation, I think, for that too, because we have the G in the bass for that E flat chord, so it stays. So it's an
I see
E
what you're
flat
saying.
over G.
Okay,
And
yeah.
a really interesting thing is that, I don't know, for me, one of the most melancholic and nostalgic, like yearning and longing feelings comes from major 7.
Yes, I
So-
would agree with that.
If we're in E flat, there you go. There's your melancholic
Yeah.
yearning or longing, and yeah.
I want to
So-
clarify, when you say E flat over G, just for people
Yeah.
listening, what Dennis is talking about is like an E flat chord.
Major chord.
So say this chord, the typical way that you would play that is with E flat on the bottom. So E flat is called the root note. Yeah, so, but he's saying instead of just the E flat on the bottom, E flat over G means G is on the bottom instead.
Right. So E flat's still the root, but G is in the bass.
Correct. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's still an E flat chord, so E flat is still the root, like Dennis said.
Right.
But you can put it over another note that is in the
Right.
chord or not in the chord. Yeah.
And what's really interesting about voicings like this, every note is, we're actually hearing the overtone series, the acoustic harmonic overtone series, right? So that low G on the piano with the piano string, we're also hearing a G an octave above it. We're hearing a D an octave, the fifth above that. Then another G, another octave up, and then a major third, a B, and then another D, and it goes on, and then they get closer and closer together as you get higher. But they also get a lot quieter. But when you play really low, those overtones are more audible.
Yes.
So that means
Because when they start subdividing up, there's more space where you can audibly hear the pitches.
and if you actually look at a spectrogram analysis of the sound waves, at least on a piano, those volumes of overtones are getting quieter and quieter by about, well, I think the first one is about half the volume of the fundamental lowest note. So that first G is about half the volume, and then the D is about a third of the volume. And you can see those volumes getting quieter and quieter. But if I play that really low G, that means the D is somewhat audible. And what is the D in relationship to this E flat chord we're playing now? It's a major 7.
Yeah, major 7th.
So by keeping the G in the bass, we're hearing it.
Yeah, you're not hearing it as loud as Dennis is playing it.
Exactly.
But
right.
Yeah.
You're experiencing it subconsciously and emotionally, even if, theoretically nobody's actually playing it. String instruments have much louder overtones.
Oh yeah.
Like cellos, like the fifth is actually almost the same volume as the fundamental. So
yeah, it is hard. It is hard to. It's easy to hear. It's easy for me to hear a cello, or especially a bass, play a note, and then me misinterpret what note they're playing because I'm hearing the overtones so strongly.
And you're really conscious of those higher registers with your your violin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was.
And So anyway,
I like your theory. Yeah, I'm a fan of bringing overtones or acknowledging the reality of overtones in analysis, which sometimes just the physical realities of playing acoustic instruments are sometimes not talked about when you're looking on paper, just on, what it looks like is happening on paper, and explaining it only with what is on paper. Because when you add when you add acoustic instruments and physics and stuff, all this other stuff happens too. There's lots of other byproducts.
Totally. The same piece played on the piano versus on orchestrated for strings is gonna feel way different. And I think a lot of that has to do with the overtones you're hearing with the strings. And that's also why I think strings are often used more for nostalgic, to evoke more of that emotion.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's more fifths, and those relationships are more prevalent, those major 7s. And
well, I think strings are useful for nostalgic, or for achieving nostalgic aims, not only because you can vibrate, you can color your tone a little bit more, but also you can expressively tune yourself. Like you're not tied to the way that your piano is tuned. So you can raise certain notes just slightly, and you can flatten things ever so slightly, and you can really dramatize the tuning, the intonation.
Very expressive.
Yeah.
You have a lot of expressive tools there.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue listening.
Yes.
I suggest that you...
No, well, we're at the beginning again. My bad. Okay, well, now we're hearing it in context.
This bucket of bolts is never going to get us past that blockade.
This baby's got a few surprises left in her, sweetheart.
So this is low, which Huron associates with more ominous, right?
Come on!
Yeah.
Switch over. Let's hope we don't have a burnout.
Back to Han and Leia.
See?
Someday you're going to be wrong, and I just hope I'm here to see it.
Punch it!
There's so much sound design happening as well. So this is very high pitched.
Exciting.
And it stays up there. You said exciting.
Yeah, and I'll pull up. Let me do a little screen share here. I'll pull up what I mean by. Let's see if I can. I'll zoom in on this here.
Okay, let me
see that? Okay.
I'll pull it up in a second. Okay. Also, your typing noise. Let's.
Sorry, I'm
it's
just
okay.
trying to avoid touching the laptop.
It's all good. Okay. Okay. Is this correct?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
You got it. So that's the four quadrants: high pitch, low pitch, quiet, and loud. So if you have loud and high, you've got fear and alarm, or also I think of excitement.
Yeah. Sad, relaxed, sleepy is quiet and low. Loud and low is aggression, which is like when we heard the Imperial March.
Or a bear in the forest is growling at you.
Yeah, or a bear.
Right. We got to go back to our DNA roots here.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
That's why that's why it's called the acoustic ethological model, because it's animals and humans exhibit these same... They use sound for the same purposes here.
I actually don't know what ethological means. I'm looking it up now, though.
Animals. Like
okay.
Animals. Yeah,
okay.
All animals, basically. Humans included.
Oh. Yeah. I'm curious. How did they test that? Like, how did they... So I'm guessing they used like non-human animal subjects as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think this is from a paper of David Huron's, but he also has a couple of books that are considered opinion.
Okay.
But
I'll put links in the show notes if people want to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well,
anyway,
that was the high-pitched strings doing a very like... Also, I think like when I hear something high-pitched like that and we see like shots of space, it makes me feel like the vastness of going off into space as well. And that might also, like, some of these things are sort of self-referential as well to the associations we have with the Star Wars universe, of course. Right. Yeah, it kind of feels like there's a whole galaxy out there. I don't know.
So is adventure a good word for that? Like, that's what I think of when I think of the high, like when I said excitement. Yeah. I think of, there's a whole universe to explore. And it's like that kind of adventure feeling.
There is also, I'm going to replay part of it because I think there is something interesting. It doesn't keep going up. It stays up and then it stays kind of static up there. Like, okay, well, it's going up here. Okay, never mind. Well, here. I mean, it does keep going up, so I guess I was wrong. But it does, like, kind of put a little pin on that last escalation. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, it does keep going up, so I take that back. It does keep going up, yeah. Which heightens the sense of adventure, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking with the higher strings. Also, there's some ominous diminished chords in there too.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk. What diminished chord are you hearing?
I think that might be it. Yes, it's like restating the melody, but with over a diminished harmonic framework.
Yeah.
Which puts a different feeling to the same melody, which it's kind of mixed emotions there too. I love that.
It is mixed emotions.
So this 5-minute segment is going back and forth between the different themes, right? Quickly, but it's also, sorry, there's a phone drop. It's also merging the some of the themes, like some of the harmony. Like right there, like we don't typically hear diminished in Han and Leia's theme, but here he's restating it over the diminished chord that is more prevalent in other themes. And I'll have to ask you about that.
So you see this as an extension of Han and Leia's theme because I mean that makes sense because the kind of shape of the
it's the same melody. Yeah, it's the same shape.
Yeah, it's the same shape where it goes down first, dee 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 dee, instead of dee 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 dee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that isn't that is an interesting like compositional technique to keep the same shape but alter it in a way that distorts it or changes the color or the emotion of it. Yeah.
And he's doing it just to fit in the harmony, the current harmony. So he does a half step there because that would be part of the scale that fits with. It's a diminished scale.
Yeah.
You put it all over the scale, but that's where you would put it.
Right. Instead of like, instead of the opposite, where he could be trying to just keep with, you know, picking a scale that works with the existing melody.
Right. He's merging the two. So you have nostalgia with the melody, and then you have the feeling of the chord, which is different. So
I think it's a really, I think it's a good example of like when you have a theme, there are so many things that make it that theme. Like it's not just that specific melody or those specific chords or that specific rhythm.
Right.
Like you can take just the rhythm and hint at it. You know, if the rhythm is distinct enough, you can take just like the shape of the melody and hint at it. You can take just the chords and hint at it, which Star Wars does a lot with hinting at the chords of the Imperial March. And I think, I mean, one of the things I notice in some of the perhaps newer Star Wars, or, you know, the Star Wars shows since the John Williams films, is this sort of adherence to what the melody of the theme is, period. And sort of like, you know, not really playing around with it as much as John Williams would, sort of, yeah.
I see. Like just a literal restatements of it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue playing.
R2! Get her ready for takeoff.
Again, Han and Leia.
Lead up the rendezvous.
Modulated.
Yeah.
Don't worry, R2. We're going.
Strings are playing so high. And we have that
Lydian.
Yeah, that Lydian thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ethereal, something supernatural.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think
There's nothing wrong, R2.
we're seeing like Luke's X-wing blast off into space, and it's super. Like I think I have an image of it. I don't know. It's like it's clearly more in the triumphant vein, I'd say. Like Luke's not off to do something horrible. He's off to do something perhaps exciting. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, not that, but this.
That's when we get the French horns blasting that Lydian sound.
Yeah.
That Lydian.
And
Interesting.
it's a quite exciting moment. Like, yeah, it's almost like a splash. It sounds like a splash of some sort. Why does it sound like that? Let me go back. Like I think Woodwind's doing a sort of oscillation. Yeah.
And we have big, like, triumphant fifths in the low end, right? And then we have the little whimsical stuff happening.
Yeah.
So there's some mixed emotion there, too, of triumph and... I don't know, is that a different kind of feeling that we're attributing to Lydian now than...
Well, I think Lydian can hold many things in different contexts.
The ethereal, supernatural part, though, I think that's what it is. Like the mystery, mysticism. Like whenever our hero Luke, who's learning about the Force, which is kind of a supernatural thing.
Yeah.
It's appropriate when he triumphs. To experience the reason why. It's because the Force is with him. It makes you feel as the harmonic spelling of the Force.
Oh, that's
winning.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like young Anakin's theme.
Mm-hmm.
Young Anakin's theme has some Lydian action going in it. How does young Anakin's theme go again?
Let me find it.
Oh my gosh, it's when there's so many themes in my head. I've used this in I've referenced this so many times, and I.
Is this Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Then,
okay, wait.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Lydian thing, so maybe.
Okay, so. Okay.
Oh yeah, there we go. Well, it's in the second chord.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So the second chord is that.
Yeah.
And then we have it's Lydian again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we do the same. That's an F major over E.
Oh, so you have the major seventh.
So yeah, we have that, but we also, coming from A major, it's the same borrowing from A minor again, right there.
Oh,
it's like, and
that's a good
so
point.
F major is Lydian. F major is Lydian. So for a split second, we get that another Lydian feeling. Even if you're not even playing the Lydian sharp 4 note of F, we're not playing a B in there. But because we're coming from A major, anyway, I love it.
Wow.
It's so great. But yeah, what was your point there about young Anakin's?
Another
theme
example of
compared to-
something like, when he's young Anakin, okay, the whole world is at his feet. He's gonna be a Jedi. He's like this little wonder kid, right? It's the feeling that I feel like Luke is off right now. Luke is still a young sort of protege, he's off for his next adventure. He's about to get Jedi trained. Yeah.
So hope and anticipation.
Yeah.
Those are feelings that it brings too. Yeah.
Also, it's the Frank Lehman drinking game. I'm going to bring it up again. If you look to the associative progressions that he lists in the appendix, you'll see different chord progressions and the motifs that feature those chord progressions. So the first one, G to A, which is, just an example. We have optimism, benevolence, youth, victory. And so those are, that is Lydian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Yoda, young Anakin, victory fanfare, Rose's theme, and then some other stuff. But yeah, optimism.
Is this in the non? What is this lead motivic?
It's toward the end. It's like the associative progressions section. Yeah. And
Thematic relationships. Okay, I see.
yeah, so I think as a chord person, I feel like you would appreciate this.
Oh, I'm gonna dive in. I hadn't noticed this.
Yeah, you're gonna.
But yeah.
Yeah. But I will say there's a note that says this table deals solely with progressions among triads. Other aspects of harmonic design, like sonority, example, augmented triad, functions, Neapolitan chord, scale, like Dorian, hexatonic, octatonic, and even overall idiom, like jazz, atonal, diatonic, functional, are also strongly associative in this franchise and may be described in future versions of this catalog. So maybe he's working on that in the future. Yeah.
What a resource.
I know. We love
This is
him on
perfect
show.
for your
So
podcast.
good. All right, so I'm going to keep playing.
On R2. Just setting a new course. We're not going to regroup with the others. We're going to the Dagobah system. Yes, R2.
Conveys so much of his beats.
That's all right. I'd like to keep it on manual control for a while.
Okay, the way that he says that line, I'd like to keep it on manual control for a while. Just like the melody of that line always sticks out in my head.
What notes is he?
I don't know.
What
Oh, I
notes
don't.
are they?
I feel like this is a contender for one of those, like. Oh, what's it? Oh, I know. I'd like to. Well, I think I'm. I'd like to keep it on manual control.
Keep it on manual control for a while.
I'd like to keep it on manual control for a while. Apparently the way that Luke is able to read what R2 is saying is, and this is according to the screenplay, the monitor screen on Luke's control panel prints out a question from the concerned R2, which I had never had thought about it that way. I kind of just thought that he could speak to R2, or he can understand R2. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But I mean, this makes complete sense, and I'm sure a lot of other people already knew this. So, yeah, that's all
I
right.
wonder if it's in their heads-up display too, from their helmet.
Oh, that's a good.
Whenever, I don't know if we'll have to test that and look and watch Star Wars looking for moments when he's not looking at his ship, the control panels.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue. Well, here we're about to hear the start.
That's all right. I'd like to keep it on manual control for a while.
This is the beginning of 4M3, the Asteroid Field, which actually starts with the Imperial March. In a pretty menacing
I saw him.
So what?
way.
Star Destroyer.
Yeah. And then we go to Lydian again, right?
Wait.
Which as soon as we
Oh, as soon as we stopped.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we went back to Han and
Oh wait, no. Oh, but I think they actually keep the.
Destroyer still coming right at us.
Sir, might I
Shut him
suggest...
up or shut him down. Check the deflector shield.
They're staying in the Imperial.
Great. Well, it's still on.
They're staying in the Imperial March.
wait, yeah, exactly. But very briefly we heard a
Did we?
I think it was maybe I think it was the diminished sound, which is kind of borrows from Lydian. It's got the minor third, but so no, if we had the major third, it would be just by playing that note.
Oh, it's interesting. I never would have thought of that as having anything to do with Lydian.
What's happening on the screen? I'm not seeing it.
So it's
right,
so
right
okay.
when you hear that note.
Right. Okay. So here, when we hear just the intro. No, okay. Well, first, here's the.
You see the destroyer.
So here, where it's just the oscillation, the flute oscillation, that accompanies the image of Luke's X-wing flying off, and then when there's this like wipe cut, the kind that I don't know, it's like a double.
The circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's we immediately see the imposing Star Destroyer. That's when that's exactly where the Imperial
theme.
March starts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And then
here, Star Destroyer, and then we're going to be in the Falcon cockpit. Here.
I saw him.
So what?
right there,
Destroyer.
what are we seeing now? We're inside the Millennium Falcon, right? As soon as we enter the
Yes.
Millennium Falcon, we hear the bum ba dum bum.
We do.
Yeah, he's switching. He's messing with us so much, but it's fitting exactly what we're seeing. It's like scripted to every.
I have to
Because that's
wonder.
just a glimmer of hope.
Well, I have to. Well, I feel like that sound is also very associated with the Imperial March. That you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. Maybe it's just been in the Imperial March all along. The hope. Well, I don't know about the hope.
Well, is it Imperial March? We have. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I mean in the like underscore or the accompaniment that is often associated with the Imperial March. We do hear the.
Oh, okay. It's in the counterpoint somewhere.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, yeah. But also, it does occur to me that since this whole like asteroid field cue that we're entering is such a beloved cue and one that I know very, very well, especially since doing a cover of it for this podcast. I feel like I might be taking things I know from this cue and rewriting history in my head a little bit to think to I don't know, apply them to other sections where they aren't. So
Right.
I'm not like not 100% sure. Like it's weird to me to think that this, the asteroid field is a set piece. It's like a set piece theme, like the Battle of Hoth, and this material doesn't really show up again. The stuff in the asteroid field, but it feels like it's so much bigger than the couple minutes that it actually is. It's very trippy. Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with how quickly we're moving back and forth between theme references, and so it feels like a lot of time is a lot of emotions are covered in a short period of time.
And then I feel like once we enter the asteroid field, the music plays out really operatic. Like the music plays out in the front and center, I think. I mean, of course, sound design too, but I mean, it doesn't take an underscore approach. Like in the asteroid field, I think the music is it's like the main event, and we'll get to hearing the vast majority of the asteroid field in just a second. And I can't believe it takes place it's only like a 3-minute long thing. And I feel like it's a chance for John Williams. It was a chance for John Williams to really like write something complete, like write something that was like a piece. In interviews, like let me pull a quote. There was an interview of him in 1997 that was like 20th anniversary of Star Wars, and they asked, "Are there any scenes that stand out for you?" And he said, "Well, I have standouts in my mind because of the music that we play in concerts more recently." And I should mention the Asteroid Field has also been made into a concert arrangement. And he said, the Asteroid Field, I remember from, I think it was the second film, it had a musical piece that was like a ballet of flying spaceships and asteroids colliding. That was a very effective and successful scene in my mind, both musically and visually. So a ballet of flying spaceships and asteroids colliding is how John Williams puts it, which is hilarious. And also not untrue.
Right. You've played a lot of ballets in your time in orchestras, right?
Yeah.
And would you say, how does the music differ from other styles or,
That's a good question.
Are ballets more cinematic? Are they more...
They are pretty cinematic, but they also are pretty, like the music is very front and center, like as opposed to something that could be seen as similar to a ballet, which is an opera, where, music wasn't the right word, orchestra was the right word, where like in an opera, the orchestra does a lot of accompanying the singers. And so, but in a ballet, you're accompanying something that's not also sonnet, it's not
right.
So you're not competing with another layer of sound
focal
music.
Point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so here, even though there is dialogue, it's like yelly dialogue. It's like little yelly acerbic bites here and there, and rocking the ship and stuff like that.
So it's almost like you have this yelly dialogue. I like yelly as a verb. You have the actors yelling, and then you have the asteroids and the starships yelling through the violins and through the orchestration. So that's pretty cool to think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so
they're yelling as they collide.
Let's continue listening.
Okay.
Thornton coming right at us.
Sir, might I
Shut him up or shut him down. Check the deflector shield. Great. Well, it's still on.
There was an awkward cut right there. I'll replay it in case anyone missed it. Right.
Now. Check the deflector shield.
Right there.
Well, it's still on.
Did you hear that? It was like the beat didn't like finish.
Is that what happened?
I'll play it one more time. Like I think it was just a bad cut. Which there are things like that in the soundtrack. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Sir, might I
Shut him up or shut him down. Check the deflector shield. Great. Well, it's still on. Maneuver.
Yeah, it was on the eighth. It was on the eighth note.
Yeah.
1, 2,
Which is more noticeable when you're in a march, where like it's so, the beat is
regimented.
so strong. Yeah.
Yes, it's military.
Yeah, militaristic.
Yeah, and so you don't think John Williams wrote a bar of 7/8 right there?
Doubtful. I think it's interesting that the Asteroid Field, and if people are familiar with the soundtrack, and there is a track that is called The Asteroid Field, it does start with this whole opening, which is basically like the Imperial March. When you listen to the concert arrangement, which I'll play from in a bit, which I think is actually quite different. I don't know. It is the same basic idea, but the concert arrangement feels very different to me personally. It doesn't start with this Imperial March section, so that leads me to believe that like the Asteroid Field proper, like that part really starts after this. Like, you know, I'll mention it when it starts. I think it'll be kind of, it's where, I think it'll be obvious where it starts. It's where this podcast music starts. And yeah, but it I guess that just goes to show that like sometimes the way that cues are arranged, it's not necessarily like planned out in terms of the themes or the actual, like, I don't know, the way that, you know, it's the order of the film. So this runs from the last part. And so it's all on the track together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Take a base of action.
Here's a siren. Here we have a very, very awesome shot of Star Destroyers crossing.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
But sir!
So this is, I think,
Getting closer.
where the Asteroid Field
Watch this.
thing is
Watch what?
starting. It might be a little
I
before.
think we're in trouble.
If I may say so, sir, I noticed earlier the hyperdrive motivator has been damaged. It's impossible to go to light speed.
We're in trouble.
So here. And yeah, so the that thing, the Asteroid Field.
It's hard to, yeah, it's hard
hear.
for me to hear what's going on because of maybe some compression on the podcast, but
And also because
some
of
of the
the
music's getting lost. The
Also,
dialogue
yeah,
and
also
stuff.
because of the fact that we're listening to the
sound.
film mix. So I'm going to play from the soundtrack now, so we can hear
Oh,
it more
great.
cleanly. And this corresponds to about, yeah.
Oh, I just want to note while you're
Yeah.
finding that the horn sound, the alarm, is the sharp 4.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's funny. I mean, that's funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course you would notice.
whatever that means.
Yeah,
It's a familiar pitch, but even the sound design is.
like somehow.
I don't know. I
matches.
wonder if John said, "Hey, can
well,
you change the horn?"
The
Or if
classic,
he picked
or if he picked a key because knowing
the
that,
key that complemented the sound design.
I feel like it's a coincidence, but I also feel like, well, that alarm sound is like the alarm sounds in Star Wars are pretty consistent. Like I have a running list of like the different alarms and when they show up.
Of course you do.
So they, you know, it's not arbitrary. Like when you hear an alarm sound, but at the same time, I feel like someone like John Williams might have natural keys to pick for certain things, not like even just based on the instruments being used.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so playing from the Asteroid Field. I could probably rewind a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. This iconic little xylophone hits.
Yeah. Okay. So. So that's like a D flat and C. To me, the flat 2, if we're in the key of C, the flat 2 represents tension, aggravation, distress. Yeah. And from a vertical harmony standpoint, if I were to play a C chord and then add a D flat to it, it sounds like tension and distress. So in a melodic sense, if you're going back and forth between the two, you get a little bit of that feeling too.
Yeah, and by flat 2, Dennis just means like in the key of C, the the second note would normally be a D.
Right.
And if you play, if it's a flat 2, then you will flatten that by a half step.
Right.
So it would give you this, that
Right.
tension. Yeah. It has the thing, like the bit of music here, which is, it's so striking, and it does not show up in other Star Wars, except it does show up in Solo: A Star Wars Story in a very specific context. But we've already talked about that on this podcast. Listen to the episode with Jeremy Saruk, Solo, I think it was called Powered by Thirds. We talk about that that part in Solo: A Star Wars Story, where classic themes are interpolated into that reminiscence therapy track. Okay, so the rhythmic, like, okay, so there's sort of like a steady eighth note thing happening underneath. I'll go back a little bit. There's like so many things happening, right? So right, you know, it's like it's happening in thirds. Yeah, that thing, that thing. And then we have the violins doing that, you know, that ridiculous like dee, 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 and then like those runs. It's very hard to sing because it's very chromatic and fast. And the xylophone is sort of fortifying the main notes with some extra hits, which the xylophone, I think, it gives it like an extra. I don't know. It always reminds me of Camille Saint-Saëns, Carnival of the Animals, or like Halloween music or something. But John Williams.
Can you play it
certainly-
again so I can
Yeah.
and point it out where it is? Is that
It's like on those right there.
okay? Is it doubling the notes? It's hard to hear.
It's
with
doubling
these
the notes.
headphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doubling the notes. Yeah.
Cool.
It just gives it like a tiny extra sparkle or
Sparkle,
something.
yeah, metallic.
Yeah. And there are like these slides that are happening. Let's see. So that's a run. That's a slide.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
searing-
it's doing both of
yeah.
those things.
Yeah,
The run would be the thing where you can hear the defined notes, right?
right.
You know, there's actual notes being played, and then the slide would be where it goes like, where, I mean, it's literally a slide, so.
Slides down.
Yeah.
So we're running up and sliding down.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a child's playground.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like but I think that kind of describes like the way this Asteroid Field ballet feels to me, which it could have been scored really, I don't know, ominously, like really scary, really, but the score kind of lets us know that this is going to be a fun, like, playground adventure. Like, I don't know. I feel like the score is reassuring. It is, you know, it has its jagged edges. It has its like,
It's tension, but it's also
but at the end of the day, you're gonna be safe. You're gonna have fun, and you're gonna have a lot of fun.
right.
Yeah.
After all this, it's all just a big adventure,
Yeah.
and we're near death, but it's a big adventure. Yeah.
And if it weren't, Han's bravado would play off much worse. But because
Right.
it turns out okay, it plays out okay.
Han.
Oh yes. Oh, Hamm
Yeah.
solo.
That's John Hamm, but I need to get my own face on there for Hamm solo.
Oh wow.
I'm teasing with releasing an album or doing a solo project called Hamm Solo.
Oh my gosh.
So you heard it here first.
That would be amazing. You would have to have some sort of a Star Wars nod on it, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep playing. I think I rewinded a little bit on accident, but it goes by fast, so.
Ooh.
Yep. Just preparing. It goes like big leaps. Climb up, slide down, leap down. Stay. Interstitial stuff. Oh yeah.
that's a diminished scale, but it's also half steps like we hear in Jaws.
Yeah.
It's the menacing tension. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those eighth notes underneath, or six, whatever the meter is,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing those half steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting
And
to
in
note.
thirds, like, or even in, I think they might even be triads or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Similar. Jump down. You know, this kind of less metered. What do you hear in there?
I'm hearing the Byzantine scale.
Really?
Which
Is that what
is,
it's called?
Byzantine is the double harmonic major scale, which I love. And it's
Such good ears.
oh, sorry. Maybe it's not the Byzantine. I forget.
Is it a kind of
So it's got the flat 5. I'm sorry, it's got the flat 2. No, there's the Byzantine. It's flat 2, major 3rd, 4, 5, flat 6, major 7. It kind of sounds like some of those runs and melodic things are doing that, but it could also be just diminished scale. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to analyze it further, but they're both really. Man, there's just a lot of complexity in the scale, in the mode, in the feeling. It's like they're like transitory
Yeah, I was just gonna.
scales and scale modes, because major and minor feel very stationary and like that there's a solid home, and these are used often on like the mode of the major 7. Like if we're in C major, we would go whatever mode is. Starts with a half step. It's a lot of things that start with half steps or feel like they need to resolve, and so they're unsettling.
Yeah, and well, John Williams uses octatonic scales everywhere, and which are scales that alternate half steps and whole steps, and they, especially in action cues like this, they give him a lot of flexibility in just being able to, I don't know, like seemingly seamlessly like end up in different keys, or just like a run can spit
It goes
you out
so many
on a
different
different
places.
note, and I find that like really fascinating. Like since I think like note kind of in notes, in the horizontal way. So like when I'm playing this and I'm playing this the runs, the scales, it'll just when you start like a run or like a scale or something, sometimes you can sort of expect where it's gonna spit you out on the end. Like you start kind of low and then you end up somewhere predictable. But here it's sort of like you start in one place and you end up like in this other place, because the alternating whole steps and half steps, just like it's
Each note, they work well. There's basically, you mentioned the octatonic scale. There's 2 diminished chords
yes,
that are a half step apart
yes,
within that scale. And every note of a diminished 7th chord can function as a leading tone, a half step up to a resolution, new key center. So there's with every, we've got 4 possible new keys to arrive at just with each diminished chord, and the scale kind of makes you feel like that chord is vertically, like it's the same kind of feeling as the vertical chord.
Yeah.
When you hear the scale,
So very tricky.
Yeah,
Tricky.
But so transitory, transitional feeling of like, where's it going to go? Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That describes this well. Okay. So we have more of those kind of
Yeah.
that
Those are
thing.
runs.
Yeah, and that's what Frank Lehman calls the Asteroid Field Subsidiary Motif,
Okay.
number 27. And the way he describes it is one of the numerous motivic particles from the asteroid field sequence, revived along with the above main theme in John Powell's solo Reminiscence Therapy. Yeah, it's that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Wow.
of course on the mallet instrument, it does the whole glissando, it does the whole run up, so you can hear. There's so much like frill. There's so much frill to this.
Yeah, flurries and
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
there's a David Huron has a great book. I'm gonna look it up real quick here. He goes through all like tons of melodic like function and what emotions they evoke and what you can use them for and where to use them, and it's like it goes super super deep into like how a lot of these tools are used by especially cinematic composers. But I'll find the name. I'll look it up here.
You could always send it to me later, and I'll put it up. But I would be interested in that because, like, I definitely remember reading David. Like, I was definitely assigned readings of David Huron's in school. Like, that name, it's just easy to remember.
Yeah, he's
but I
had
can't
like
remember exactly what.
6,000.
Oh, yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, he's been cited like
A lot.
I don't know, a lot. But I think the book is his voice leading book.
Okay.
And I think it's in the last in the last decade. At least 2016, I think.
Okay, cool. Voice leading book. I'll definitely put a link to that. Okay, so let's toggle back to the minutes so we can hear what's happening in the context of these, because it is kind of interesting to.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
We went back a little bit, so let's skip forward. There we go. Okay.
Where's our boosters? Moving dampers? No! That's not it! Bring me the hydro spammer!
I don't know how we're gonna get out of this one.
Okay, that ADR right there is not good.
ADR?
Yeah, like the automated dialogue replacement there. Okay, so where Han says, I don't know how we're going to get out of this one, it sounds completely different. And when I'm looking on screen, you can't even see his mouth moving there. It's...
I don't know how we're gonna get out of this one.
Lots of explosions
There was no
continuing.
laser blast, something hit us.
Han, get up here.
Come on, Chewie!
Asteroids.
And so
Chewie set 271.
What are you doing?
they're kind of leading
You're
up
not
to
actually
something.
going into an asteroid field.
There's the asteroid field subsidiary motif.
You don't have to do this to impress me.
Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
And here we see the asteroids. And of course, that's the asteroid field main theme. I didn't want to stop before that point because I know once people start listening up to a certain point, you have to hear that drop. So
That drop. It's like,
no, seriously, if you go to like YouTube videos of the asteroid field theme or whatever, you'll see like the comments that'll be like, I came here for 145. Like, and me too. Who else came here for the part at 145? Like, I swear. It's like, the comments on
so yeah, let's find that theme on your resource.
yeah. Oh yeah, I'll put it back up again. So this is
Okay.
the asteroid field main theme, and it's the It does. The chord changes during this whole section are, well, for me, very interesting, and for me, hearing them, thinking of like, okay, I'm putting together, my cover. I was like, I had to work really hard on figuring out like the order of the chords. Like I thought I was going to try to outsmart the system by combining the first Asteroid Field part with the second one, which comes later and has a different chord progression, but it changes in a way that, I don't know. Yeah, the chords here are so interesting.
Could you play
I'll keep playing it.
the soundtrack?
Yeah,
the soundtrack
for sure.
version.
Yeah. Okay. I should go back further. Okay. Nope, sorry, go back further. Okay. Even that just like thing that just happened. C, A flat over C, D.
Wow.
What are you hearing there?
I'm hearing some of the same harmony in the Harry Potter themes.
Oh.
It's also, it's the furthest you can get around the circle of fifths for modulating. Like, what was the first chord? Where does it start
A.
in?
A.
A. And then I think we go to, is it E flat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as far as you can get. So it's also the same interval of the tritone or the sharp four.
There's
So
so
here
much
we have
sharp four.
There's sharp four all over the place, in the same chord as a melody, in a major context, in a diminished context, but then also just movement between chords, and that's what we have here. This is like a big. Now he's painting with a giant paintbrush of the entire movement of the root of the chord is moving to that note. So we're turning it into a much more important thing. It's really it's a grand statement
Grand
of the
is a
same,
good word.
Yeah, of the same feeling, but now it's more like substantial.
Yeah. And the orchestration, the way that the instruments seem to sort of chorale around this theme makes it stand out from the rest of the cue as well, where there are a lot of disparate elements. There's a lot of scurrying here and there. Here it feels like a lot of the instruments come together to unite around this theme. And some of the, like I'm hearing some very almost plain triads in a couple places.
Which feels triumphant.
Yeah, it feels triumphant,
Or,
grand. Yeah.
Regal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's hear that one more time. So this lead up I really like too. We're getting in a second. Here. See, it's a drop. And see, the timpani reinforces that C, right? Do you hear how like?
So yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, say it again.
Oh no, the timpani sort of reinforces that C major right here. You know?
Yeah, so that's the Lydian. Yeah, sorry, I keep going back to that. Fireworks go off in my brain every time I hear Lydian.
Clearly, you have a Lydian like I don't know, meter in your head.
Disposition.
It's in disposition.
A Lydian disposition. sensor.
And the part leading up to, oops, oh my God, fail. I need to, I'll write down the time. Okay. Like, that's how he's leading into, just a plain old A major drop. This very, it's going A flat, B flat. There's B natural, C sharp, D, and then it goes D, D sharp, G, G sharp, B.
So we have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the first we have this octatonic scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we go into the Asteroid Field theme, which is like Asteroid Field main theme. Second of two memorable set piece themes during Asteroid Field chase. Yeah, you can see that in Frank Lehman's catalog. And we'll continue. It's going from B major to F major, which is also a very far distance to jump.
Yep, B to F.
Yeah.
That's that. Yep.
So now we're back to the subsidiary motif again.
Yep.
This is like a modulation to the asteroid field coming in again, but the chord progression is different.
Yep. It's climbing.
So start on F that time. This is different. And that's where I'll stop for now because that's where the minutes stop. But yeah.
What was that melody?
It's D D D.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's but the second time around it's D D D D D
Okay.
B major C major and then straight to A major D, and then G minor over E. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to A major. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it is like, it starts in the same way, of course, in a different key, but then it jumps to something different. Very tricky.
Wow.
I feel like the second time the second time goes to a different place. It goes to the Han and Leia thing. Like it has a triumphant finish, but then it kind of has like it peters out a little bit and goes into the Han and Leia theme. But there is this one section where I feel like I can't see.
Oh, it goes to the D. So it's a E half diminished. Oh my God. That's a really interesting use. If we're in A major. So yeah, half diminished is often used. So it's like we're borrowing from a D minor key center by hearing the E half diminished there in the context of A major where we are. And it's he kind of does that in several different places, right? No matter whether it's A major or it modulates in a couple other spots, but that's super interesting.
Your wheels are turning.
Because it's important. Here's where it all comes together for me. So that melody note of a B flat is the tritone from our current root note of E, which is where you were just talking about Han and Leia, which uses the Lydian feeling. So if we were going, right? That's the Lydian relationship of F to B, with B as the melody. Now here we're going. It's a half step away. It's the same.
Wait, what you just played? Where is that here?
It's not. I just made it up. But but I ended on the same. So from E as the root of E half diminished with B flat in the melody. That's the same interval, the same relationship as F and B is a half step
As the Han and
apart.
Leia chord.
Right, as that. And here we're going. So
yeah.
subconsciously, these interval relationships are really, our brain knows. Our brain is like, oh, I've heard that before, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. I really want to hear you play like a full arrangement of Han and Leia's theme now. Maybe interspersed with the Asteroid Field.
With the Asteroid Field, yeah.
I'm going to play this again.
Yeah.
And that part comes out of nowhere. It's good stuff.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a genius composer.
Yeah. It's okay. So there's a lot of the things that are happening at the same time, which we'll toggle back to this. Like I said, it's sort of a yelly type of thing. Yelly, hitty. There's also a ton of humor in it, which we'll start to get. 3PO's hilarious yell.
You said you want to be around when I made a mistake. This could be it, sweetheart.
I take it back. We're going to get pulverized if we stay out here much longer.
You can argue with that.
Pulverized?
I'm going in closer to one of the big ones.
Closer?
See, no dialogue. It's the ballet. The music is front and center.
Interesting.
I have to call out 3PO's hilarious dialogue here. Not only does 3PO earlier have the line, "Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1." But he's like echoing Leia here, where Leia's like, "I take it back. We're going to get pulverized if we stay out here much longer." And you can hear him say, "Pulverized?" And then Han's like, "I'm going to get closer to one of the big ones." And Leia's like, "Closer." And 3PO, you can barely hear it. It's like, "Closer." Oh my gosh, it's so classic. And then there's and then he grabs onto Chewbacca. He holds onto Chewbacca, like hugs him from behind. I have an image of that right here. It's
Oh my God.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Love you, 3PO.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear I have a little Ewok snoring right here. Sorry.
Is this your cat?
Ewok.
It's Hamlet.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, buddy. I woke him up so he wouldn't be snoring. Just reposition yourself, buddy.
The chillest cat, just the chillest cat
Just
ever.
the chillest, yes.
Just so chill.
Yeah. I was just noting something too when you said how playful it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing that in the harmony, right?
I hear the Lydian thing.
Sorry.
Oh, you're
But
turning
yeah,
my
that's-
brain into this. You're making my brain have this thing now too.
You'll hear Lydian everywhere now. But that's also, it's playful because it's mysterious too, because it's the tonal centers are so far apart that it's like, oh, what key are we in? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the way that I, like, practically speaking, it did my brain for like a little, did my brain and fingers. It took my fingers a while to get used to playing that part, because like I'm switching from trying to, intonation wise, I'm switching from trying to tune something with 5 sharps to tune something with 1 flat. And and for those notes to be part of the melody as well, it was definitely the
Flipping
sense
the
of
script.
like I don't have to look at the circle of fifths to know that these are huge leaps, because I can just feel it in like the whole brain switch when I'm playing violin, which is like, oh, I can't actually share very many of these notes. Okay.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
very few. Yeah. If you're going from C major, it would be equivalent to from C major to F sharp major, which is going from no sharps or flats to 6 sharps.
Yeah.
It's as far as you can get. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were playing one of those, like a harp or something, like one of those instruments where you put down your pedals for the keys that you're in, the sharps, and you'd be like flipping your feet furiously to like get rid of those, to like reset the sharps and flats. Yeah. But it's
Wow.
with an orchestra, with when the orchestra works together, they can achieve that with teamwork, with good orchestration, making it happen.
Right.
It's just
I'm
fabulous.
just glad I play the piano.
So you don't have to worry about tuning, or so you have a lot of notes. You have a lot of
It's just a
fingers.
mental shift. It's not it's not so much of a physical shift.
Yeah, that's true. The mental shift is so, I don't know, maybe that's why I think it's not uncommon for violinists to think more in melody or be worse at thinking in harmony than pianists are. Or especially I should say especially jazz pianists. Because we don't necessarily have to think about that as much. Though our brain space goes toward intonation and dealing with
you're and timbre too, and
yeah.
Wow.
I want a little bit of what you have, a little bit more of that.
And I'm trying to get what you have. I'm using this whole this different keyboard now I'm using 2 different effects pedals, and I've got ribbon controllers and bend and aftertouch, all just to try to make a single note sound more expressive, and apply different filters and changing the timbre and everything, so that I don't have to feel like, because sometimes playing an instrument, I want to get off of notes faster because I don't like the sound of it, because I can't control the decay or how it's going to sound after I strike it. And so I envy your ability to sing more like the human voice or on your instrument.
The ability to be able to, I guess, strike a note or, start a note and change it while you're still on that note is definitely nice, compared to with piano. When you hit the note, there's not much else you can do.
Yeah, you got to get it right first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a percussion instrument. Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the different emotions that you associate with chords, or even just to strip it back to intervals. Maybe play some examples. You could use me as a
Yeah.
test, and I can tell you what emotion I think
Yeah.
I associate with that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And listeners, you can do this too.
We could go through all 12
Oh, okay.
or,
You have
or
12?
11 intervals. We can
Oh,
go
okay.
through all 11
Oh,
intervals,
fun.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll just do C. Start from a C context.
Okay.
I might put us in the key of C with a big 5-1. How's that feel for you? What do you
Do you want me to just say like one word, or can I just say whatever?
or many words?
Tense. Can you play
That's
it
my
again?
first one too.
Oh, okay. I'll stick with tense.
Yeah. Me too. Tense and aggravated, just uncomfortable. Okay, we'll do the next one.
Oh. Striving.
Oh.
Also, there's something else. There's something like teamwork's not the right word, but there's like I almost feel like hand holding or
Neighborly
talking,
kinship.
something neighborly where you're not
Yeah.
necessarily exactly on the same page, but are still
Brotherly
talking
kinship.
to each other and
Sure.
trying to achieve understanding that is maybe not there yet.
Sure.
Like,
But it's a positive, it's definitely a positive.
It is more
feeling.
positive.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's like hope,
Oh, okay.
especially if you have the fifth in there too, but.
Like visually, what I
yeah.
imagine there is like literally, and I mean, I know that it's you're playing a major second. I'm imagining like people on on different stairs, and they're not that far apart, but
They're not that far apart.
you could go up to the next stair.
In addition to hope is acceptance, I think of. Like different, but I accept it as.
Yeah.
Yeah, like complementary.
Complementary.
Yeah.
That feels
yeah.
right for me.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
just to clarify for people listening, when he plays that like stuff beforehand, don't worry about that. He's just doing that to center, to cleanse our
this
palate,
stuff?
to get our palate ready. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do that again, and now here's the next one. This is a minor third.
So what's interesting is like you're playing a minor 10th, and I feel like that kind of changes.
Yeah, because of the
Things.
overtones, we're hearing all that. So if I just played that.
You've been doing the left hand with the lower octave for all of them so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep doing that. I'm just saying.
Okay.
If we were to go through the whole exercise again with more of a close position, I feel like that maybe would change, but I don't know. It's just a hypothesis. So let's go back to the keep it standard. Okay. Somber.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of sad.
Yeah.
Maybe serious.
Yeah. I think of grave.
Sure.
Mournful.
I have a theory about this that is a little more contrary to what a lot of, like Leonard Bernstein and different theorizers think, that we actually are kind of hearing E flat, which is our top note, as a secondary root. And then our brain subconsciously is comparing the lowered actual root of C. We're doing C minor here with an E flat. We're so used to hearing relative minor it sounds like a lowered feeling. And I think that's where the kind of the lowered sound of minor comes from, even more so than it being lowered from major. I'm not hearing it wanting to go up and resolve up to a major chord. And it's fine. It's fine just being that home, but I think it's subconsciously we have these two really important voices or secondary or potential roots of the chord. Because if I play it as
What can you back up? Okay, so the Bernstein
Yeah.
thing, what was Bernstein
he
saying?
talks about like the overtone series and how there's a major third that you hear in the, if I play a low C, there's a major third up here.
Yeah,
and
so you're intuiting a C major.
Yeah, but we're so used to minor modes that we're okay with this feeling like home.
Yes.
And we don't want it to resolve up.
I agree with that.
Necessarily.
And that's what Bernstein says?
Well, you can watch his
Okay, he
his
thinks
lectures.
that you want to go back. He thinks you want to do a Picardy third, basically. He thinks
that it kind of sounds unresolved, and we're sad because it's unresolved.
Oh, I see. Oh.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true either.
At all. And he's not. Maybe I'm misquoting it.
Okay.
Okay. His intention there. It's one of his explanations for why you feel sad with minor chords. And this was earlier on with his Harvard lectures before he did more research. So maybe he changed his thinking. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, going back to David Huron's acoustic ethological model, where lowered sounds, it's not just lower pitches on the piano or on any instrument. It's brain making a comparison between two pitches and how one might be lowered and which one's most important and which one's the root of the chord or the mode. And so these comparisons are important when we're determining why things sound sad, like why would just two notes sound sad?
Right.
Like,
I mean, that's
there's no context. There's no melodic context. There's a little bit of key center context, but
no, that is a good. Well, you did play the C. You did play the.
We have a key center of
preparation.
C. Yeah.
Because
But
if I thought of that same minor third as just like instead of the C and E flat, like if I think of an E to a C, which feels like the top of a major triad.
oh, E to a G.
Sorry, E, that's what I meant. E to a G, top of a major triad. Or like if I think of a third, but the third is part of, like I've been led to intuit that the third is part of something, a major chord or something.
That minor third. Well, but if in order to hear that way, the C and the E flat, I'd have to put you in A flat, which is we're not going there. Like,
I know,
when
I know, but you asked
that's
before why just two notes could have, and that's
right,
and that's why, because you prepared it with the C.
That's
and so
right.
I'm comparing it to C.
Well, and I also am wondering why it sounds sad, and hear the same two notes if I prepare it with an E flat. Now we're in the key of E flat.
Okay, so I don't think it sounds sad though. I think it sounds.
Yeah, because it sounds like an E flat 6 chord.
It sounds maybe a little melancholy, but not somber.
No, it's a little more, and even a 6 chord in jazz, often the old like 1920s and 30s, you'd play a 6 chord to end the song as the resolution. Actually, a 6/9 chord. So we'd have that whole. If I do it in C, we'd have that and the major third, which is the 2, the 6, and the 3, and that's resolution and acceptance and hope, and so when I play that E flat, G, and C, or if I just play a C and an E flat, if we're coming from an E flat key center or a context, to me that adds more of a hopeful or you're right, it's not sad.
Yeah, so the context really matters. It's not just...
It really matters.
But the first time you played it, when I was oriented around C, it did sound somber to me.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. Okay,
Okay, keep going.
now we're on to major third.
Peace. Harmony. Happiness.
Yeah. Me too. All that stuff. Positivity, uplifting. Just a side note, there was a study in 2021 with participants in the northern tribal area of Pakistan. Yeah. And the tribal members didn't have access to the internet. They didn't have access to Western music. They hadn't heard much, if any, Western music. And they asked these tribal members how they felt when they played them chords, major chords and minor chords and some other chords. And they responded that minor chords made them feel like uplifted and positive. And major chords made them feel, it sounded strange and odd and didn't feel comfortable. So familiarity with these intervals, like in Western music we have more major sounds than minor sounds and major triads. Eastern music has more minor triads. So
Yeah.
our familiarity with these intervals has a big part of why we feel emotionally the way we feel.
That's a really good point, because then it, like when we consider in the West, I guess, when we start to describe the music of other cultures against our own barometer, like I think of, there's a type of Bosnian folk music or folk songs called the Sevdalinka, and they are, to Western ears, they sound, they've been described as really tragic, like really, really, really sad. But, really in Bosnia, they express a whole range of emotions. But because of the intervals and the associations with like the types of, the way it sounds compared to, our Western barometer, it has led to a lot of like mischaracterization of other music.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay, next
That's
one.
why I like thinking of making mistakes, harmonic mistakes, as opportunities to expand my perceptions, because I know that they can be expanded, and because I know that they come from familiarity. So you want to play something wrong like 1,000 times, and then you'll start feeling like, oh, that's right, actually.
That's right, actually.
And that's okay. So here we are.
Oh, interesting. Oh, this is not what I expected. Play it again. Something is in progress. That's what it feels like. It feels like progress to me. It feels like something is still en route to something else.
Right. Same.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, anticipation. I feel like is a good word for how I feel, which means you're anticipating something coming when you're in progress towards something else.
Yeah.
We're really familiar with that resolving down as. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But, okay, I'll point it out later. But anyway, and the next one, our favorite interval for the day.
Also, something is in progress, but looking up. I feel like something is like yearning and like yearning for more. What's out there?
What's out there, yeah. For me,
Or
it's
like,
mystery.
you've just stepped a little bit outside of your bubble and are seeing something new for the first time.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Or a new experience. Yeah. Yeah, I associate this with mystery. It's also, yeah. especially coming from this major feeling. We talked about that for Happy Birthday and.
No, I do think
Okay.
that's interesting because, I mean, you just played a tritone. So I feel like that, just as, context matters, I feel like there are sort of shorthands that, just, when people on the internet talk about music, intervals and chords and whatever qualities of chords, there is a lot of shorthand, and the tritone is maligned as something that sounds like evil and off and just like wrong and is whatever. And obviously that's not always true.
I have an illustration for why that's not true.
Oh, okay.
So those are stacked fifths. Mm-hmm. It's basically the circle of fifths.
Yeah. Yeah. So the interval between each of those notes is a fifth. Mhm.
Is a fifth, right? So C, G, D, A, E. I need a foot pedal in order to play the top one. But it's also a Lydian scale. C, G, D, A, E, F sharp, or C, G, D, A, E, F sharp, or C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. Same notes, but so it's a vertical stacked Lydian scale, and all of those. Well, this brings us to our next interval. Actually, really,
Okay.
it's really important.
Stability.
Stability,
Yeah, stability. It's like unwavering.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the note that supports the other note.
Yeah.
It's the fifth supports. And it's the most. It's actually the interval that's the most universal. Like, so Easterners, Westerners, tribes of Papua New Guinea and Northern Pakistan, they all have fifth drones in their music.
Oh.
And it's also the most audible of the overtones.
Yeah.
And children recognize it when there's studies with like really young children and infants even.
Recognize
so-
a perfect fifth.
Recognize a perfect fifth, or it
Evokes something
you can
confident.
hear in our voices right now. If you analyze a spectrogram of it, there would be a perfect fifth in there that
Like the
we're
overtone.
hearing in our brains. Our brains fusing it into the sound of one pitch, but we're actually hearing it. So it's a root supportive interval, and every time I stack fifths, I'm adding root support to the previous note that I'm
previous
playing.
note.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
kind of this
you're
ladder
building
of
like
stability.
a strong net. You're building like a strong chain of.
Yeah. George Russell in the 30s and 40s called it the ladder of fifths, and I like to think of it as ladder of stability.
Yeah.
And they all happen to work pretty well in together as the Lydian scale. So yeah, you were talking about how the tritones can be perceived as, or used to be considered evil or
Yeah.
something
Rumored
negative,
to
and
have, but debunked. But still,
right.
yeah. But like still a lot of voice leading, like a lot of in like Gregorian or in like chant or whatever, a lot of things were done to avoid the tritones. Not that they were considered evil, but just because I don't know. It is true that tritones have the most complicated interval ratio between their
Oh, right.
like the overtones basically, like
The overtones,
yeah,
the rubbing or beating
yeah,
of
there is more
overtones that
beating
are forming
between
half
them.
steps. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Beating.
Yeah.
Another complex concept.
True.
Okay, so then the next one, we're almost done. And really in the context of C,
one last chance. I don't know. Wanting something. It's kind of wanting. It's wanting something. It's wanting of something. But it also is pretty.
It's a hard one for me.
It's hard because I have so many associations with
Yeah.
that interval. It feels a little bit. It feels more stable than. I feel like for me, it wants to go down.
Yeah.
Gosh,
It is a hard one.
this one is hard because it just it doesn't have as strong of a reaction from me.
For me, it has multiple reactions, which makes it hard to clarify.
Okay. Okay, so that's an option. Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
an option.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like this one is okay. So I imagine like a heroic type of figure who's maybe a fallen a little bit, like a fallen figure
Yeah.
who is maybe trying to work their way back up, but like at the beginning of the journey.
To me, I'm wondering if you're really hearing it as tonicizing the top note. So, are you hearing that?
Oh, yeah, I am. I
Hearing
am.
that. Right.
Yeah.
So which makes it, yeah. That's by the way, that's what Han and Leia theme does, and that's the root. But if we hear it on the top as the melody, and if we try to keep our brain in C major world,
Okay.
and maybe
Kind
it
of
helps to
sad.
go to include that G in the C G.
Yeah. Oh,
Then
and there's a little bit of longing.
There's the longing. Yeah, for me, it's kind of the same, similar to the. It's kind of
minor
that
second.
just tension, a little bit of tension. Yeah.
So what's funny is like for me, minor sixths are just a nice way to convey a major chord on the violin. So I think a lot of
Right.
like, I don't know, it's hard for me to unhear the like.
The major third, inverse major third.
Yeah. Like when I hear this,
Yep.
I think of that being just, I don't know, the major chord, the easiest way to play that on the violin. Yeah.
Yeah, you're hearing that. Yeah. So a lot of our perceptions are going to be, you've played the violin for so many years, it's just ingrained.
Yeah.
These
But
uses used for these functions.
actually, when you played it, the first thing I thought of was the rings, Wagner, like the ring cycle, the Siegfried motif, and the new Obi-Wan motif,
Oh.
which goes dee 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 dee.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was hard for me to not just think of like, Obi-Wan
Yeah.
or Siegfried.
Yeah. I love it.
Which is another thing, like the music that we listen to a lot can absolutely like
Takes you there, yeah.
shape
Or
where
the music we listened to over the last 2 days.
that's what we might associate it
What we
with.
must be familiar with recently.
Yeah.
We have 3 more.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, this one feels very similar to the
The 2.
the major second, the
Yeah,
people on 2
major
different
2.
steps, kind of,
Yeah.
complementary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the ending of a 1930s jazz piece. Yeah. Okay. Hope, acceptance, kinship.
Yeah.
That's one of my words for it.
Yeah. There's safety.
And then how about this one?
This one's striving for something. Can you play the setup again? Oh no, this one is kind of stable actually. This one is kind of stable in a different way. This one's like stepping down, like going down the stairs. Yeah, going down the stairs. Yeah, there's like a unity, but there's like a difference too. Like there's like a healthy separation.
Okay.
It's not a bad feeling, and it's not overtly good. It is more stable than not, but it feels slightly maybe one thing is broken.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you feel with it?
Right. So I love, I'm just thinking of you I'm like imagining you describing a relationship between two people. And I do that a lot when I'm comparing like feelings of dyads like this. I have a whole list of like the names of the relationships.
Oh my gosh.
So the next one for me, this is the lovers.
Yeah, longing, yearning,
even nostalgia.
Yeah. And a little bit of that, like, see, I know there's so much I'm associating with music. Almost a carefreeness to it. But they're also, but it's separate from the yearning. It's like different in different applications. There's yearning, and I think if I heard that played fast, I feel like it might be carefreeness. Yeah. Or like reminiscing on something carefree.
Reminiscing, and that to me is nostalgia.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So then when we add two notes or three notes at once instead of just the two notes at once.
In other words, putting together a standard chord, a triad.
A triad or, but say we had that minor third and we had that yearning in the same chord.
Oh, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. So we have the sadness of that relationship we talked about. Minor third sounds sad. We have kind of the yearning, longing of that. We want it to resolve up. It's lowered, it's depressed, it's melancholic, but it's, and then we have, but then our brain is also hearing your favorite
the
minor sixth, which is an inverse major third, so it should be. But, so that's kind of tonicizing or turning that high B into a root.
Yeah.
Is that a really important note?
Yeah.
That major third or minor six is doing that.
Yeah, I think an easy way to explain tonicizing or roots is maybe like play a chord and then I'll sing what I think the base of that note is, the root. So people can participate. Like start with an easy one.
Yeah. We'll that one.
So like I perceive da as the root.
Yep. And I was playing the D sharp as the lowest note, but you perceived the B, the top note, as the root or fundamental grounding pitch, which is normally lower. So root perception doesn't necessarily mean the lowest note you're hearing.
Correct.
For everyone listening.
Yeah.
So that's how you can, when we hear it with the C in the bass, your brain's also kind of going, oh, are we actually B? And C is a flat 2 of B? When there's that tense feeling?
We'll play it again, and I'm going to see what naturally I end up singing if I had to pick one root.
Okay. C, yeah. So you're hearing the C as the root.
So by the way, we hear that in the Death Star motif, listeners.
The Death Star motif?
Yeah. We hear more than that, but that
chord?
It's in there.
Awesome.
Not quite, but
Oh,
it's
something like
not
that?
100%, but
Okay, okay.
it immediately is reminiscent. There are elements of it. Certainly that major,
Beautiful.
yeah.
To me, that's the darkest, saddest, wrongest
Well, there you go.
chord you can make that still sounds harmonious. Like it's not like that's wrong, right?
Right.
But this is harmonious, but it's evil. Yeah. And I think that's because we have the sadness of the minor third.
Mm-hmm.
We have the longing, yearning, melancholic nostalgia of the major seven, and we also kind of hear a B as a secondary root. And the C, which we're also hearing in the chords, sounds like that tense feeling of a flat two in the key of B, with the root of B. And here's how we can measure your perception of that. I'm going to play the chord, and then I'm going to play what the actual root is. Not what you think it is, but what the actual root is. How surprised were you to learn that that's the root?
Oh, pretty surprised.
Yeah? Because you were thinking,
Yeah.
C.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think subconsciously our brain's going, it's possible. And so that's why we're also hearing potentially that C as a tense feeling because of a secondary root.
Yeah, but thinking of the root being a different note makes me, without you changing any of the notes that you're playing, perceive the chord differently.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. It's and John Williams uses that trick all over the place.
Like playing notes one way and then kind of changing the root like under your feet and making the same
and
notes
you hear the
sound
same
different.
melody, and now the same melody sounds different, even though you're hearing the same melody.
Oh.
He's doing that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really... that's a very illustrative breakdown, I guess, of something that I know to be true and people know to be true, but to actually hear it demonstrated and hear the intervals like change. That's wild. I mean, it is. Yeah, I'm really glad that you went through that, because I think there is, for example, I'll just say in the Star Wars music world, not in the music world, but in like people who want to learn about music, it's easy to latch on to certain things like the love themes start with major sixths. So major sixths are romantic intervals, period. And to kind of think, okay, I get it now. I know what a major sixth is now. It's the romantic thing. And then you're kind of basically obliterating that box. You're saying, well, yes, but the framing of it matters a lot.
The context matters, right.
You can't just find a major sixth somewhere else and say, I know it's going to be a romantic thing.
But it's good to know that and this is kind of the nature of my little project I'm working on, it's multiple emotions we're feeling. And that's what makes music so rich and fulfilling, because we can experience a lot of feelings at the same time. So you might be feeling that romantic feeling of major sixth, and additionally what the context provides, which might be something different, like the hope or optimism we're talking about, but you also hear the romance at the same time.
That's a good point. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, I want to share this. This is what you're working on, right? Sentisonics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'll put this link in the show notes. If you go to Dennis's blog here, you can see like examples of playing things. I don't know if you can actually hear that. Oh, you can. Yeah. feelings grounded by roots. That's kind of like what we were just talking about. Oh, I need to put yeah. And simultaneous roots. Oh gosh, there's so much more. What is this picture? What is this?
The whole reason why I started this project is to make a visual element, I'm basically building a way to play and improvise live harmony and see it represented visually in an emotionally intuitive way. So it's a monumental task of trying to quantify the emotional effects of harmony in a way that can be used in real time as like a new, like collaborative instrument between, visual artists and musicians that can improvise and compose in real time to make this collaborative tool.
Yeah, I'm very into that.
So this is a screenshot of just kind of a demo of the root perception process, where I made with a friend I assigned colors to each pitch, each of the 12 notes, and the center particle swarm there is the root of the chord. So this is a chord that has competing roots.
Yeah, I see green, blue.
I wanted to see if we could visualize roots competing for attention or for prominence in our brain. I wanted to see what that looked like on the screen. And so I have a script that built in this program called Touch Designer, where I can play chords and play harmony.
What language is that?
And what language?
Programming.
So Touch Designer I'm building the script in Python language.
Oh.
And then Touch Designer can use some of Python. Touch Designer is software like an animation software.
Okay. Oh, I see. Wow.
But yeah, so it's pretty fun. It made me realize a bunch of things about my own perception as I started playing chords and realizing, oh, my brain kind of hears A flat as the root of that chord. It's a C altered chord in my jazz mind. So anyway, it's been really interesting as kind of just doing this as an experimenting with perceptions and harmony, and so this is perfect. This is great timing for you to ask me to join this Star Wars discussion, because composers, that's what they do for a living. Film composers, they're trying to use harmony and other tools to capture the emotive qualities of the scenes.
I would be very curious to, see multiple scores by different composers. I don't know, to see like a visual, to see this sort of animation, to compare them.
Yeah.
This ties in really nicely to 4 episodes ago, we had Jen Harding on the show. She was talking about macro harmony, and she was talking about analyzing not only scores, which show the intention of the composer on the page, but also analyzing recordings, since different performers will bring out different aspects of harmony, even if they're playing the same notes. And that could be by just emphasizing some of the notes more, making maybe, or it could be doing slight things with intonation. And I thought that was like that was like a little bit of a light bulb moment for me, thinking just about how performers, it's not just about what's on the page, but just, I don't know, analyzing the harmony in like a living way.
Right.
And this feels like related to that. And both of you are performers, so it makes sense that your like theory and research is kind of grounded in personal performance experience.
Yeah, the in one sense, harmony relationships it's also, we're talking about prominence and like I think it's David Huron who also talks about fame in the brain, where different voices are competing for prominence. So, and so he's my little Ewok is snorting with. He has no sinus cavity, so. But yeah, like what you were talking about, that's also involves like perception of what's the most important note or the most important voice that we're hearing. And that's what roots are, where our brain's going, what's the most important note, which is grounding us to all these emotions that we can feel based on the relationships to that note.
Yeah.
Or multiple notes as roots, multiple roots, which is something that jazz players think about a lot in polytonality.
Yeah,
Where
and John
thinking
Williams does
two keys
a lot
at
of
once.
polytonality, especially in action cues. So much of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Would you consider like something like the Asteroid Field cue, I guess, polytonal? Like how big is the unit of measurement in terms of polytonality? Like,
well, I think of polytonality as simultaneous perception. So it's often when you hear complex chords with like that Lydian.
yeah,
To me, all of those notes have various degrees of a little bit less tonal relevant or tonal prominence. And so like there's a D major triad within that C major triad, C Lydian context. So we can kind of feel the effects of both keys at the same time. That to me is polytonality when it's in a vertical context like that, like simultaneous.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a modulation in a horizontal context from A major to E flat major, which we were talking about as a tritone. It's the furthest apart you can get. That distance highlights the fact that they're different, and differences. Like that, I don't know, that it kind of
it has a certain
emphasizes
effect for sure.
it emphasizes that they're I don't know that they're different. So if you were to play them vertically at the same time, A major and E flat major at the same time, yeah, they're different, but there's too much.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Too much dissonance. So the fact that I'm doing them one after the other, kind of, I don't know. It's interesting.
I know you. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a different. It's a different tool. It's a different thing. It makes me feel like going down a slide or something. Like something where it's a big leap. Like
a whole tone scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does give me that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm going fast. And I don't know why it makes me feel like that. Like it just makes me feel like it makes me feel like I'm going into a like I'm going into light speed or something. I'm going in on one thing and being shot out on the other end.
Yeah.
Like it's like, that huge, and maybe it's because like when like a chord progression is kind of logically, more logically, quote unquote, staying in one place. Not many of the common notes are changing. It's pretty diatonic, or even not, but it's closer in the realm of its circle of fifths. It doesn't feel like it is moving as fast. I feel sort of like it makes me feel more. I don't know. Like if I'm dancing, I'm like putting one leg to the right, but this feels like. Whoosh,
leapt to the other side of the room, like teleported.
Yeah, it does.
Abruptly,
It's really like it is like there's like a time travel, there's like some jump happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that interval is using all over the place. So yeah, we could do a mashup.
I mean,
do an
Adrenaline does a
arrangement
lot of big
all
jumps.
these themes at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, even if we take like the Imperial March, like if we
Is that
do like G minor to like C sharp minor, or
is that the Imperial
Yeah.
March?
yeah, that's also really far apart.
Oh, and it's also really dark because we're not only are we taking. I wanted to note this too. If we play G, this is going from G minor, E flat minor. If we go major, G major to E flat major, that's the
Oh,
that's
interesting.
that. So now we're doing the exact same thing, but in minor.
Oh, wow.
And I can't do that Lydian sound. That's too major. I would have to go. Or something like we could do this melody. There you go. There's a fuse of Han and Leia and the Imperial March.
The mashup I didn't know I needed. I'm interested.
Yeah, so anyway, that minor sound is sad. Also, the movement from there is kind of a darkening progression. So we have minor chord moving to minor chord in a direction that's also sad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of the most, I think that's the darkest chord progression you could create.
Yeah.
So just like we were saying that that's the darkest vertical chord of a minor with a major 7. Oh, it's kind of also
Just made
occurring
another
in that harmony. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the perfect. It's as dark as you can get,
He knew what he was
and
doing
still
there.
be harmonious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's also really interesting that those chords, that movement, is the famous John Coltrane giant steps. It modulates between major thirds like that, down major thirds. That's moving from B to G major to E flat major. And the whole song just goes back and forth between those three, which is kind of the major version of the Imperial theme, the Imperial March.
Giant steps.
Giant steps and the Imperial. I just connected giant steps and the Imperial March. It's the minor. It's giant steps in a minor key. The Imperial March.
Oh, that's sweet.
There you go. There it is.
Wow. Well, this has been very fascinating. I did promise that I would play a snippet of the concert arrangement, so I will do that right now. And I wonder if it has a different vibe to people. It has a very different vibe to me, but okay, here we go. So it's expanded. Basically the same. It continues going. The percussion really stands out. I think like right off the bat, the thing that for me stands out is the slower tempo.
Is this remind me what
It's a concert
what are we
arrangement.
listening to?
No, it's
A
the
concert arrangement?
John Williams. Yeah, it's his own concert arrangement of the Asteroid Field. So it's like what
Of the
live.
Asteroid Field, yeah.
Yeah. So it does
Interesting.
feel like compared to like if we go back to.
Is it longer and expanded?
Yeah.
Or it's not the same?
It's the same music basically, but there's some differences.
Okay.
So this is from the film. It's much faster. And then from the concert arrangement, it doesn't change the pace as much. It's still fast. It's subtle. It's just, I've listened to it so many times that I can really hear the difference. It's definitely slow. It's still a great theme, though.
I hear giant steps.
Oh, again, in the here too. It's so slow. There's more rubato. It's simple. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, where did you hear giant steps?
There's all those tritone.
Oh, okay.
Tritones? No, there's a specific spot.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, the concert arrangement is quite different.
It seemed more mellow.
It did seem more mellow. And my bias is toward the film version just because it's what I'm used to. There is more mixture of,
Animation.
like it is more active. There's a chord progression that is different though, where it's, you can really hear the piano. So that's there. Yeah.
Wow.
So
wow.
yeah, when I'm like thinking through the chords, I'm like, how's he gonna get out of this one? And then he gets out of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's doing what Han's doing. Gosh.
Exactly.
Basically.
Oh, that's the beauty for me of Star Wars. They can't exist. The score and the movie, the film can't exist without each other.
Yeah, they are symbiotic.
They are.
Yeah.
That's one of the most. That's yeah. And yeah. Sorry, I'll let you.
Really good. No, I'm just gonna keep saying that it's just amazing stuff. Yeah. And I think the more that I listen to scores, the more I notice that Star Wars scores, so like the Empire Strikes Back score or whatever, will have moments where I'm not sure how John Williams is going to get out of it, basically. Like how it will, like what's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily feel, like I feel a little bit more like along for a ride sometimes. Just, sometimes a score or like a piece can feel like I know what the next chord is going to be. I know what the next thing is going to be. I know how it's going to play out for the next minute,
Right.
or at least 10 seconds. But in a Star Wars score, I often feel like, I don't know, I can't even though I know the music, if you took the recording away from me and I had to like sing the entire thing, there would be moments where I might be like, wait, is it this note? Wait, I ended up half a step high. Wait, I ended up half a step,
Yeah.
away from where I thought I was going to end up. There's a lot of
Do you think
those
that's
moments.
because he keeps modulating to such distant keys, distant places, like
I think so.
modulating between? I mean, the second most distant place you can modulate to is that flat 6 from like A major to F major, or and so between that and the tritone modulations, those are like, yeah, it's just, it keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it sounds adventurous. It doesn't sound predictable. It sounds like we're going to new places. And
does.
it's perfect for space.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else about these minutes that you had to say before we move on to the Star Wars Music Minute Questionnaire?
I've, playing pop music and jazz music. I love like having a key center and then borrowing from, other mixed modulating between different like modes and things, but we're pretty much staying in the same key. And listening to classical music throughout my life, I've kind of not been so attracted to it because it changes so much, I guess. Like, to me, it feels like these 5 minutes going back and forth between like referencing themes just for a couple of seconds of going back and forth between Han and Leia and the Imperial March and moods, and it's kind of distracting. Like the journeys emotionally, like this feels like multiple personalities, or like you wouldn't just sit down and listen to it to like enjoy a piece of music unless you were really like engaged in wanting to feel like you're going on this crazy adventure. And a lot of times we just kind of want to be in a more like sit with a feeling like for a while. Like I'm going to listen to a sad song and it's going to take me through these feelings of joy and sadness, and kind of but anyway, my point is these 5 minutes make me really appreciate like where John Williams gets this from in classical music, like what composers he borrowed from, and all their modulating between keys, and I like the adventure, and I like the cinematic like feelings that come at me at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and because he does it he weaves through it in such a artful way that connects these themes emotionally and so like intuitively that it's really, really enjoyable. And I'm just saying that coming from a person who doesn't normally sit and listen to like soundtracks, and because they're too just emotionally distracting. And they fit with the film. Like it's hard to want to separate them from the film line. That's why I was saying like they can't exist without each other.
Yeah.
And that's what these 5 minutes feel like for me. It's like married to the film.
I feel that way. I feel that way about soundtracks as well. Well, for me in my mind and the way I grew up, soundtracks were separate from classical music. So they're separate categories for me, and they always were. So like I didn't listen to soundtracks, but I listened to a lot of classical music. So soundtracks soundtracks sounded different than classical music. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but like,
Yeah.
And so for me, I enjoy soundtracks in the context of the film, which is why this whole podcast is like going through the film, not going through each track or something.
Right.
Yeah. Many ways of listening that people get used to, get comfortable with.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's move on to the Star Wars Music Minute Questionnaire before we wrap up. Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Question number 1. In exactly 3 words, what does Star Wars sound like?
adventure, mysticism, and justice.
Oh, interesting. I like it. Justice. That's
Justice,
good. I
the
don't hear that
triumph, right and wrong, like good and bad, light and dark, or purpose.
Yeah.
That's like,
Those are good.
that's why I said justice. But
Yeah, no,
and
those
then
are good.
adventure for like, you know, the energy and the action and a lot of stuff we were talking about with the harmony. And then the mysticism, like the supernatural, like existential feeling of the music is kind of perfect. And I say existential because the themes, like, they kind of highlight the full spectrum of harmonic chord modes, and like there's the major and Lydian, really diatonic main theme, and then there's the minor, you know, Imperial March and Darth Vader, and like, and then there's the diminished kind of mode where you're talking about the octatonic scales and all the melodic stuff that happens there, and the mystery of where we're going. And anyway, mysticism is like throughout the harmony, and that tritone we were saying sounds mysterious, that is utilized so much melodically, and yeah.
Love it. Question number 2. What is something related to Star Wars music or sound that you want to learn more about?
I would like to know what specific classical composer John Williams borrowed from, or because a lot of these harmonic tools and in terms of the harmony, like I'd love to know like which composers he kind of was influenced by.
Yeah, I would like to know that too, because I mean the common references are pretty, like the main references are pretty common knowledge, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't know, it's easy to gloss over it. Like, oh, this is kind of like Holst, this is kind of like Stravinsky, this is kind of like whatever. But it would be nice to have a more like, I don't know, like, okay, what exactly did, like, where, you know, the harmonic language that you're using here, where'd you get that idea? Like specific, like the specifics of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's go deep. Like I was talking about Happy Birthday, how I'm influenced Lydian because of Happy Birthday. Like, what was that moment in childhood, John? That
I want to know that too.
What did you hear that makes
what was
you,
that?
Yeah.
What was in your first piano book, or like what did you have to play? What did you really?
Totally.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because that stuff is like, in many ways, the most influential and most hidden.
We're the most emotionally connected to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm constantly like inspired by something where I'm like, yeah, I remember I practiced my ass off on something like this when I was 17 or whatever, like, or 10. I loved playing this piece, or I loved the, you know, I had this, you know, thing that I listened to going to bed when I was in elementary school or whatever, and so I always think of it whenever I hear like Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto. Like that was like one of the first classical pieces I knew, and I just like it. It's so ingrained that I think about it.
So ingrained. So the theme from Star Wars is ingrained in my. That was my first piano recital at age 5.
Oh my God!
Everyone in the class. I took a Yamaha music school class, and everyone in the class played Hot Cross Buns for their recital. And I got up there, and I had figured out.
No.
5 years old. First recital.
Wow. Damn, Dennis. Well, that's why you are where you are today. But
yes.
Yeah, that would have been, that's so funny. Oh, with that descending bass line and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What is a score or soundtrack that you're fond of besides anything Star Wars?
So the theme from The Last Starfighter, like Craig Safan.
Is the movie called The Last Starfighter? Okay.
Yeah. The Last Starfighter. And it's just super emotionally, it's this. goes to other places, and but it's
That's sweet.
yeah, you have to, yeah. It goes. It also does this. The John Williams. It says some of the modulating things like that in the middle of that theme too. But
Who's the
yeah,
composer?
and then Craig Safan or
Okay.
Safan.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Safan.
Cool. What were you
Yeah.
gonna say after that?
He uses it throughout the movie. Just the kind of the way that John Williams uses the themes throughout Star Wars, and in a similar way.
This is a childhood thing, isn't it?
It's a childhood thing.
I can tell by the look on your face. You have like
Yeah.
that wistful, like, yeah, yeah. Like you look like you're
Yeah.
5 when you're thinking about this.
Yeah, it's the beginning of my realization that I could be so emotionally connected to music without any lyrics. Just the melodies and the harmonies. Like it's all I need. Yeah, and so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with you on that one. Okay, so oh yeah, the themes. Okay, I'm gonna do the theme rundown really quick. Okay, so the themes. Okay, so the cues in this set of minutes were 4M2, the Rebels Escape Again, 4M3, the Asteroid Field, and the themes we heard were the Imperial March, the Han and Leia A section, the Asteroid Field main theme, and the Asteroid Field subsidiary motif. And then in the soundtrack, we're on the tail end of the Battle of Hoth medley, and we are in the Asteroid Field. Yeah, those are the stats for the set of minutes. And Dennis, where can people find you online?
On like Instagram, I'm Dennis Hamm Keys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you showed the Sentisonics.com, where some of my thinking on harmony I'll be posting.
You have an Instagram account for that too. Do you still post like,
Yeah.
because I remember you were posting, like I remember this from months ago when I had no idea where it was going. I thought you were just doing it for fun, where you were posting like playing chords and you were asking people like, what do you think the root of this chord was? I remember I voted in a few polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, those dyads we went through were for all the emotions. That's what I did with all my Instagram followers, and so I got hundreds of responses, and I wrote them all down and kind of looked for the most common answers, and I'm using that for this project.
That's cool.
It's not just my own perceptions.
Yeah, that's cool.
So.
Yeah. Well, listeners, thanks for. I hope you learned a lot this episode. I hope you went through some of the examples with me and tried to put your emotions to those. I'll have everything time stamped if you want to go back and revisit that, and see what emotions you feel with the different intervals. Yeah, we did the Asteroid Field. You can find Star Wars Music Minute on all the places online, and next week we'll be talking about minutes 41 through 45 of The Empire Strikes Back, which will take us into some more Dagobah stuff. And we'll finally hear the end of the Asteroid Field cue and the way that it ends going into the Han and Leia's theme, which we didn't get to talk about today since it wasn't part of the minutes. All right. Yeah. May the Force be with you, and thanks for listening to Star Wars Music Minute.